The grand hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light from 1,000 worlds. Delegates from across the known universe sat in their designated seats, their various forms creating a tapestry of colors and shapes. At the center podium stood Taemin, a young man with nervous hands clutching a data tablet. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his simple black uniform marked him as a junior diplomat from the outer colonies. "Honorable members," Taemin began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Today I present findings on the mythological species known as humans." A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. Several delegates clicked, buzzed, or made sounds that resembled laughter. To them, humans were nothing more than old stories told to children. Tales of a species from a blue planet who could survive anything, who never gave up, who turned their weaknesses into strengths. Taemin continued reading from ancient texts. He spoke of Earth, a world so dangerous that it killed most visitors within days. He described humans who could run for hours without stopping, who could heal from terrible wounds, who could eat almost anything and survive. The legends painted them as creative warriors and brilliant thinkers, capable of love and rage in equal measure. "These are fairy tales," interrupted Council Member Vel, a towering creature with 6 arms and crystalline skin. "Humans died out 3 centuries ago during the Great Silence. Their sector went dark. No signals, no ships, nothing. They are extinct. But what if they are not?" Taemin asked quietly. The question hung in the air. Heejin, who sat in the audience section, closed her eyes and sighed. She was Taemin's colleague and friend, and she knew this obsession of his would ruin his career. She had warned him many times to focus on real diplomatic work, not chase ghosts from the past. After the presentation ended in dismissal and quiet mockery, Taemin returned to his small office. The walls were covered with images and texts about humans. He had spent 5 years collecting every fragment of information he could find. Most scholars thought he was wasting his time. Even Heijin, who cared about him, thought he should move on. That night, while searching through a forgotten digital archive, Taemin found something. His hands trembled as he opened the file. It was a distress beacon. Old, but not ancient. The timestamp showed it was sent only 50 years ago. The message was written in a language he recognized from his studies, Korean, one of Earth's languages. The beacon contained coordinates, a location far beyond the mapped territories, in a region most considered empty space. Taemin's heart pounded. This could not be a coincidence. Someone had sent this signal. Someone who knew the old Earth languages. He immediately requested a meeting with the Council's research division. They refused. He tried to get funding for an expedition. Denied. He submitted his evidence to every official channel he could find. Each time, he received the same response. Humans were extinct. The beacon was likely a malfunction or a hoax, and he should focus on his actual duties. Heejin found him 3 days later, staring at his wall of research. "You need to let this go," she said gently. "Even if the beacon is real, even if someone is out there, the Council will not help you. You are throwing away everything for a dream. What if it is not a dream?" Taemin turned to face her. "We did not abandon anyone. They disappeared on their own." Heijin moved closer, her expression sad. "Taemin, I know you want to believe, but you cannot save people who have been gone for 300 years. After she left, Taemin sat in silence. He thought about giving up. It would be easier. He could have a normal career, stop being the joke of the diplomatic corps, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw those coordinates. He heard the echo of that beacon calling across the void. He made his decision. Using his personal savings and calling in every favor he had, Taemin quietly arranged for a small expedition. He found a ship captain willing to take the risk, hired a minimal crew, and told no one except Heijin where he was going. She tried one last time to stop him, but when she saw the determination in his eyes, she simply hugged him and wished him luck. The journey took 3 weeks. The ship traveled beyond known space, into regions where few dared to venture. The crew grew nervous as they approached the coordinates. There were no planets marked here. No stations. Nothing but empty void according to all official maps. But the sensors began picking up something. A structure, then another, then dozens. "Captain," the navigator called out, her voice shaking. "You need to see this." On the main screen appeared a sight that made Taemin's breath catch. A massive space station hung in the darkness. But it was not dead. Lights glowed from windows. Ships moved in docking patterns. Energy signatures showed active power systems. And surrounding it, hidden in the shadows of asteroids and debris fields, were more stations, more habitats, a whole network of civilization that should not exist. The communications officer suddenly spoke. "We are being hailed. The message is in." "It is in Korean." A voice came through the speakers, clear and strong. "Unknown vessel. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourself immediately, or you will be fired upon. This is Commander Dong-hyun of the Earth Colonial Defense. I repeat, identify yourself, now." Taemin moved to the communication panel. His hands were shaking so badly, he could barely press the button. When he spoke, his voice came out as a whisper that grew into certainty. "Commander Dong-hyun, my name is Taemin. I am a diplomat from the Galactic Council. I have been searching for you for 5 years. He paused, emotions overwhelming him. "I thought you were a legend. I thought you were all dead." There was a long silence. Then the voice returned, carrying weight and weariness, and something that might have been hope. "We are very much alive, and we need to talk." The docking bay doors opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Taemin stepped onto the station, his legs unsteady not from the artificial gravity, but from the magnitude of what he was experiencing. After 3 centuries, after countless scholars had declared them extinct, here they were. Commander Dong-hyun waited at the entrance. He was a tall man, with weathered features, and gray threading through his black hair. His uniform was unlike anything in the Galactic Registry, practical, dark, with no decorative elements. Behind him stood a dozen armed guards, their weapons lowered but ready. Their eyes watched Taemin with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "Follow me," Dong-hyun said simply. "Leave your weapons and recording devices with the security team." They walked through corridors that felt both familiar and alien to Taemin. The architecture was human, clearly influenced by Earth designs he had only seen in historical archives, but the technology was far more advanced than anything the galaxy currently used. Energy conduits hummed with power. Displays showed information in various Earth languages, and everywhere, humans went about their business, working, talking, living. They entered a conference room, where 2 others waited. A woman with kind eyes and oil-stained hands stood first. "I am Ji-woo, chief engineer of this station. Welcome." Her smile was genuine, and Taemin felt some of his tension ease. The second person did not stand. He leaned against the wall with arms crossed, his expression hard. "Kyung-soo, head of security. I voted to shoot your ship down before you got close." "Kyung-soo," Ji-woo said with a sigh. "We discussed this. We discussed many things. Does not mean I agree." Kyung-soo's eyes never left Taemin. 300 years we stay hidden. 300 years of perfect silence. Then he shows up and risks everything we built. Dong-hyun gestured for Taemin to sit. "He deserves to know the truth. If we are discovered anyway, he should understand why we hid." For the next hour, they told him the story that history had forgotten. Humans had not died out. They had chosen to disappear. 2 centuries before the Great Silence, humanity had been active in galactic affairs. They were young, enthusiastic, and naive. They offered their services as mediators, as engineers, as soldiers, and the galaxy had used them. Species at war hired humans to fight their battles. Corporations exploited human creativity. Governments manipulated human goodwill. We watched civilizations destroy each other, Dong-hyun explained, his voice heavy with old pain. We tried to stop it. We negotiated peace treaties that lasted mere months. We fought in wars we did not understand, for causes that were not ours. And then came the Krell genocide. Ji-woo took over, her earlier warmth replaced by sadness. An entire species wiped out because they controlled resources another empire wanted. We humans tried to intervene. We proposed solutions, offered alternatives. They asked us to build weapons instead. When we refused, they built them anyway, using modified versions of our technology. 7 billion Krell died in 3 days. Dong-hyun continued. And the galaxy blamed us. They said human technology made it possible. They said human interference had escalated tensions. Some species wanted to put us on trial. Others wanted to weaponize us further. Tae-min felt sick. None of this was in the official histories. So we made a choice, Kyung-soo said, speaking for the first time since his harsh greeting. We faked our extinction. We gathered every human we could find, from every corner of the galaxy. We went dark. We erased our trails. We found places like this, hidden in regions no one explored. And we built a new life. But why stay hidden? Tae-min asked. The galaxy has changed. There are laws now, protections. Have they? Ji-woo interrupted gently. You work for the council. Tell me honestly, how many wars are happening right now in council space? How many species are oppressed? How many times has the council actually stopped a determined aggressor? Tae-min opened his mouth and closed it. She was right. The council talked about peace but rarely enforced it. They passed laws, but allowed powerful empires to ignore them. We learned something during our time in the galaxy, Dong-hyun said. Humans have a gift for war. Not because we are violent by nature, but because we are creative and we never give up. We can turn any situation into an advantage. We can fight in ways others cannot imagine. And that makes us valuable. Too valuable. They would not let us be neutral, Kyung-soo added. Every conflict, every war, someone would want to hire us, threaten us, or force us to choose sides. So we removed ourselves from the equation. For 300 years, we have been watching, Ji-woo said. We maintained hidden observation posts. We monitored galactic communications. We kept track of everything happening out there. And we waited to see if things would get better. R1. Have they? Tae-min asked quietly. The 3 humans exchanged glances. The answer was clear in their silence. Dong-hyun stood and walked to a large window. Beyond it, the station spread out in complex beauty. Tae-min could see people in the corridors, children playing in a park section, ships coming and going. This is just one colony. We have 47 like it, scattered across unknown space. Nearly 800 million humans, living in secret, building, growing, advancing. Then why send the beacon? Tae-min suddenly realized. If you want to stay hidden, why reach out? Ji-woo smiled sadly. That beacon was not supposed to be found. It was a marker for other humans. Encrypted and coded. You must have been very determined to decode it. 5 years, Tae-min admitted. 5 years, Ji-woo repeated, impressed. Most of the galaxy gave up on us in 5 months. Kyung-soo pushed off from the wall. So now you have found us. The question is, what will you do? Return to the council and tell them? Bring the galaxy to our doorstep? Tae-min looked at each of them. He thought about his life's work, his research, his desperate search for proof that humans existed. He had found them. He could become famous. He could be the diplomat who rediscovered humanity. But he also understood now what that would cost. These people had built something precious here. A life free from being used as tools of war. And the galaxy would absolutely try to use them again. The major powers would demand alliances. The desperate would beg for help. The ambitious would see only weapons and opportunities. I will not tell them, Taemin said finally. I will return and say I found nothing. The beacon was a false signal. Donghyun studied him carefully. You would lie to your own government? Risk your career? You risked your entire existence to be free, Taemin replied. That is worth protecting. For the first time, Kyung-soo's expression softened slightly. Maybe there is hope for the rest of you after all. Ji-woo walked over and placed a hand on Taemin's shoulder. Thank you. But you should know, we cannot stay hidden forever. Eventually, something will force our hand. When that day comes, the galaxy will have to accept us on our terms, not theirs. Taemin nodded. He stayed 3 more days, learning what he could, understanding what humanity had become in their isolation. When he finally left, Donghyun gave him a private communication code. If you ever need us, the commander said. If the galaxy faces something it cannot handle alone, use this. We will not hide if the stakes are high enough. We just refuse to be anyone's weapon. Reppen with Moncher. Reppen with weapon. We have picking townses of the Nost. We have 2070. As Taemin's ship pulled away from the hidden station, he watched it disappear into the shadows. The galaxy thought humans were legends. They had no idea how real those legends had become. 6 months after Taemin returned to Council Space with his false report of finding nothing, whispers began spreading through the galaxy's underground networks. Smugglers spoke in hushed tones about strange ships in dead space. Information brokers traded rumors about hidden human colonies. Most dismissed these stories. But not everyone. In the heart of Vrex Dominion territory, Commander Thole studied intelligence reports with hungry eyes. The Vrex were a warrior empire, built on conquest and strength. For decades, they had been searching for an edge over their rivals. The old legends about humans had always fascinated Thole. A species that fought with creativity rather than just force. A species that never surrendered. Find them, Thole ordered his intelligence division. I want every resource dedicated to locating these humans. If they exist, they belong to the Dominion. The search took months. But the Vrex were patient and thorough. They traced signal patterns, followed shipping routes that made no sense, and interrogated anyone who had spent time near the forgotten sectors. Eventually, they found anomalies. Energy signatures where there should be none. Gravitational distortions that suggested large structures. And finally, coordinates. On the human colony station, Sun Hee was working late in her laboratory. She was a xenobiologist who studied alien life forms in hopes of improving human medical technology. Her workspace was cluttered with samples, data screens, and half-finished reports. She often lost track of time when absorbed in her research. The first explosion made her jump. The second made her realize this was not a malfunction. All personnel. This is Commander Dong-hyun. We are under attack. This is not a drill. Report to emergency stations immediately. Sun Hee's hands shook as she gathered her most important research data. Through the lab window, she could see Vrex warships surrounding the station. They were not firing to destroy their weapons, were precise, targeting defense systems and communication arrays. They wanted the station intact. They wanted prisoners. In the command center, Kyung-soo coordinated the defense, while Dong-hyun tried to send distress signals to other human colonies. But the Vrex had jammed most communications. Only the deepest emergency protocols were getting through. Automatic signals that would alert other hidden colonies that the secret was compromised. They know exactly where to hit, Kyung-soo growled, watching his tactical display. They studied us. They planned this. How? Ji-woo asked, working frantically to reroute power to shields. How did they find us? No one had an answer. What they did not know was that Taemin's visit had not gone unnoticed. A merchant ship passing through the region had detected unusual activity. They sold that information to a broker, who sold it to another, and eventually it reached the Vrex. From there, Thole's forces had watched and waited, gathering data until they were ready to strike. Boarding pods slammed into the station's hull. Vrex soldiers poured through, their armored forms moving with military precision. They were not there to kill everyone. They had specific orders to capture humans alive, especially scientists and engineers. Commander Thole wanted to study them, to understand what made them special. Sun He ran through corridors filled with smoke and emergency lighting. She could hear weapons fire behind her. A group of human security forces was holding a choke point, giving civilians time to reach evacuation pods. She stopped to help an injured child, lifting the small boy and carrying him toward safety. "Dr. Sun He," a security officer waved her toward an escape pod. "Get in now." "There are others still coming," she protested. "We know. We will hold them. You have the research data. It cannot fall into Vrex's hands. Go." She climbed into the pod with a dozen others. As the door sealed and the pod launched into space, she watched through the small window as the station fell. Vrex's forces were overwhelming the defenders. Some humans fought to the end. Others were captured, dragged away to Vrex's ships. Young-Ho was among those captured. He was a simple maintenance worker, not a soldier or scientist. But he had stayed behind to help evacuate his sector, and the Vrex had caught him. As they threw him into a holding cell with others, he memorized every detail of the ship's layout. If he survived, he would use that knowledge. The escape pods scattered in different directions, using every evasion technique in human doctrine. Most made it to safe distance, but a few were destroyed or captured. Sun He's pod was lucky it reached a pre-positioned emergency cache, a hidden supply station that humans had placed throughout the region for exactly this situation. As survivors gathered at the cache, the full magnitude of what happened became clear. The colony was lost. Hundreds of humans were captured. And worst of all, the secret was out. The Vrex knew humans existed, and they would not stop with one colony. Across the galaxy, automatic distress signals reached other human colonies. In hidden command centers, alarms blared. Military forces that had not been truly tested in 300 years prepared for war. Engineers checked weapons systems that had been maintained but never used in real combat. Pilots climbed into fighters they had trained in but never taken into actual battle. And in the largest colony, hidden in an asteroid field, Admiral Boram received the reports. She was a veteran commander who had spent decades preparing for the day humanity might need to fight again. She had hoped that day would never come. "How many captured?" she asked her staff. "At least 300, possibly more. And the Vrex have taken extensive scans of our technology." Boram studied the tactical display showing the galaxy. The Vrex Dominion was powerful and ruthless. If they learned human capabilities, they would come for the other colonies. This would not end with one attack. "We have a decision to make," she said to her senior officers. "We can abandon that colony and everyone captured. We can relocate and try to hide again. Or we can reveal ourselves and show the galaxy that humans are not victims." The room was silent. Everyone knew what she was really asking. After 3 centuries of peace, of building rather than destroying, were they ready to become warriors again? In council space, Taemin noticed unusual activity in intelligence reports. The Vrex were moving large forces to an area near where he had found the human colony. His blood ran cold. He tried to send a message using the private code Donghyun had given him, but got no response. He went to Hai-Jin, finally telling her everything. About finding the humans, about the hidden colonies, about the promise he made to keep their secret. "You lied to the council," Hai-Jin said, not angry but stunned. "You found them, and you said nothing. They wanted to be left alone. They earned that right. And now I think something terrible has happened. And I think the galaxy is about to learn that humans are not just real. They are dangerous." Hai-Jin looked at her friend's desperate face. She made her choice. "What do you need me to do?" Help me warn the council. The Vrex have started something they do not understand. If humans respond the way I think they will, We need to be ready. But the council was slow, bureaucratic, and skeptical. By the time Taemin convinced anyone to listen, the Vrex had already taken their prisoners back to Dominion space. Commander Thol was pleased with his success. He had humans to study, technology to copy, and proof that the legends were true. What Thol did not realize was that he had just awakened something the galaxy had not seen in 300 years. Humanity was patient. They had spent centuries building, planning, and preparing. But they had not forgotten how to fight. In hidden shipyards across unknown space, lights came on. Engines that had been silent roared to life. And Admiral Boram sent a message to all human colonies. We are revealed. We are threatened. And we will not hide anymore. Prepare for deployment. It is time the galaxy remembers what humans can do. The age of legends was over. The age of reality had begun. The human defense fleet emerged from the darkness, like ghosts becoming solid. 47 warships appeared in Vrex territory without warning, using jump technology that no other species possessed. They materialized in perfect formation around the prison facility where the captured colonists were being held. Admiral Boram stood on the bridge of the flagship, her expression calm but her eyes burning with purpose. Open communications. Then, all channels, all languages. I want the entire galaxy to hear this. Her message was simple and direct. This is Admiral Boram of the Human Defense Fleet. The Vrex Dominion has attacked our people and taken prisoners. We are here to bring them home. This is your only warning. Surrender the prisoners now, or we will take them by force. Commander Thol, watching from his command ship, actually laughed. 47 ships against the might of the Vrex Dominion? He had 300 warships in this sector alone. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Destroy them, Thol ordered. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The Vrex attacked with overwhelming force, confident in their numerical advantage. But humans did not fight like other species. They did not line up for honorable combat or follow predictable patterns. Human ships moved in ways that seemed impossible. Their pilots pushing acceleration to limits that would kill most species. They used the environment itself as a weapon, bouncing shots off asteroids, hiding in sensor shadows, creating false targets with debris. Each ship operated independently yet perfectly coordinated, like a pack of predators rather than a military formation. Jae Sung was one of those pilots. At 23, he was young even by human standards, but he had trained for this his entire life. His fighter darted through Vrex formations, targeting weak points that computer analysis said should not exist but human intuition recognized instantly. Blue 7, you have 3 on your tail, his squad leader called out. I know. Watch this. Jae Sung led his pursuers directly toward a Vrex cruiser, pulling up at the last possible second. The 3 enemy fighters, unable to react as quickly, crashed into their own ship. 3 more for the count. This was happening across the battlefield. Human forces were outnumbered 5-1. But they were winning because they fought like no one expected. They took risks that seemed suicidal but worked because humans had faster reflexes and better spatial awareness than most species. They used weapons in combinations that military doctrine said were inefficient but proved devastatingly effective. On the ground, rescue teams breached the prison facility. Kyung-soo led the assault personally. His team moved through corridors with practiced efficiency, clearing rooms and neutralizing guards. The Vrex soldiers, trained for conventional warfare, found themselves completely outmatched by human close-quarters combat tactics. 3rd level secured, Kyung-soo reported. We have visual on the prisoners. Young-ho was still alive, bruised and angry, but unbroken. When he saw human soldiers coming through the door, he actually smiled. Took you long enough. Sorry for the delay, Kyung-soo said, cutting through his restraints. We had to make an entrance. As prisoners were evacuated, Sun-hee was pulled from a research cell where Vrex scientists had been trying to study her. She still clutched her data storage device, having hidden it successfully through multiple searches. Did you get everyone? She asked immediately. Working on it. Can you walk? I can run if needed. The prison break became legendary in itself. In less than an hour, human forces extracted 300 prisoners without losing a single person. They fought through superior numbers using tactics that combined military precision with improvisational chaos. The Vrex could not predict their moves because humans themselves were making decisions in real time based on rapidly changing conditions. Back in Council space, Taemin watched the battle unfold on emergency broadcast channels. The entire galaxy was watching. Species that had thought humans were extinct or mythical were seeing them in action, and what they saw both amazed and terrified them. Hyjin stood beside him, speechless. They are magnificent, she finally whispered. They are terrifying, Taemin corrected. And they have been holding back for 3 centuries. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Half the delegates wanted to send forces to help the Vrex. The other half wanted to stay far away from this conflict. None of them could agree on what to do about the sudden reappearance of humanity. Then Admiral Boram's message reached them. Honored Council. Humanity formally announces its return to galactic affairs. We have no desire for conquest or domination. We seek only to live in peace and protect our people. However, let it be known we will not be victims again. We will not be weapons for others to use. And we will not tolerate aggression against our colonies. We are willing to negotiate with those who approach us with respect. But we will fight those who threaten us. Reeling. End quote. The message was broadcast while human ships were still engaged in combat, still demonstrating exactly what fight meant in human terms. It was a perfect combination of diplomatic outreach and military demonstration. Minseo arrived at the council chambers as humanity's hastily appointed diplomatic representative. She was elegant and well-spoken, chosen specifically to contrast with the military might currently on display. Honored members, I am here to begin discussions about humanity's role in the galactic community. We have much to offer and much to learn. But first, I must ask, will the Council recognize our right to exist as a free and independent people? The question was pointed. The Council had laws about protecting species' rights, but they rarely enforced them when powerful empires were involved. Now humans were forcing the issue, with military capability to back up their demands. Before anyone could answer, new reports came in. The Vrex had committed additional forces to the battle, enraged by their losses. Commander Thol personally led a massive fleet toward the human ships, determined to crush this upstart species. Jae-sung saw them coming on his sensors. Admiral, we have incoming. They are throwing everything at us. Good. Boram replied calmly. Let them commit. All ships, execute Plan Delta. Time to show them what happens when they underestimate humans. What the Vrex fleet did not know was that the 47 visible human ships were not the only ones present. Another 100 ships had been waiting in stealth, using technology that rendered them effectively invisible. When the Vrex committed their full force, these hidden ships revealed themselves, surrounding the enemy in a perfect tactical trap. But Boram did not order them destroyed. Instead, she disabled their weapons and engines, leaving them helpless, but alive. Commander Thol, you wanted to see what humans are capable of. Now you know. You can continue this fight and lose everything, or you can negotiate. Your choice. Thol stared at his disabled fleet, his tactical displays showing him surrounded by ships that appeared from nowhere. He had studied human legends, but reading about their tactical brilliance and experiencing it were very different things. For the first time in his military career, he felt genuine fear. I request terms of negotiation, he finally said. Replaters of hundreds said, IT. The Battle of Rex Space lasted 6 hours. Human forces suffered minimal casualties. Vrex forces were not destroyed, but completely neutralized. and the entire galaxy watched as a species that supposedly went extinct 300 years ago returned with capabilities that exceeded anything in current military doctrine. In the aftermath, as prisoners were safely returned to their families, Young Ho found himself standing next to Jae Sung. The pilot had become an instant celebrity, the young hero who took impossible risks and made them look easy. "Thank you," Young Ho said simply. Jae Sung shrugged. "We do not leave people behind. That is who we are." And that, perhaps more than any display of military power, was what the galaxy needed to understand about humans. They were dangerous, yes. They were incredibly capable warriors, absolutely, but they were also fiercely loyal, protective of their own, and willing to risk everything for their people. The legends had become real, and the galaxy would never be the same. The negotiations lasted 3 weeks. The galaxy watched as humanity, through Minseo's careful diplomacy and Bo-Ram's strategic positioning, forced the creation of a new treaty. The Treaty of Recognition granted humans full sovereign status, protected their colonies, and established them as an independent power, answerable to no empire or council unless they chose to be. But Commander Thol was not finished. The Battle of Vrex Space had embarrassed the Dominion, and their pride demanded revenge. While diplomats talked, Thol secretly gathered forces from across Vrex territory. He planned a massive assault that would strike multiple human colonies simultaneously, overwhelming them through sheer numbers. "They cannot be everywhere at once," Thol told his commanders. "Their fleet is small. If we hit 10 colonies at the same time, they will have to choose which ones to save." What Thol did not understand was that humans had spent 300 years preparing for exactly this scenario. They had built not just ships, but an entire strategic doctrine around being outnumbered. Every colony was fortified, every system had hidden defenses, and most importantly, humans were willing to coordinate with anyone who opposed Vrex aggression. When Thol's massive fleet launched its assault, they found resistance they never expected. Human forces fought with desperate efficiency, holding key positions and inflicting heavy casualties. But they were being pushed back, losing ground despite their tactical superiority. Admiral Bo-Ram made a decision that would change everything. She contacted the Galactic Council directly. "This is not just a human problem anymore. The Vrex are showing the entire galaxy what happens when aggression goes unchecked. If they can attack us with impunity, who will be next? Will the Council stand with us? Or will you wait until they come for you?" It was Tae Min who stood before the council and spoke with passion. "For 300 years, humans removed themselves from our conflicts because we used them. We made them our weapons. Now they return, asking only to be left in peace, and we watch as they are attacked. If we do nothing, we prove they were right to hide from us. We prove we have learned nothing." Hai Jin supported him, presenting evidence of Vrex war crimes and territorial ambitions that threatened multiple council species. "The humans are fighting our battle whether we acknowledge it or not. The Vrex will not stop with them." Species that had been neutral began to reconsider. Some because they feared the Vrex. Others because they were genuinely moved by the human struggle. A few simply saw opportunity in aligning with this rediscovered power. Whatever their reasons, the council finally voted to intervene. Alliance ships began arriving at human colonies under siege. At first, it was just a few vessels. Then, dozens. Then, hundreds. Species that had never worked together were coordinating their efforts under human tactical command because humans had proven they knew how to win against superior numbers. Dong Hyun led ground forces on 3 different worlds, teaching alien soldiers human combat techniques. Speed and unpredictability. He explained to a group of insectoid warriors. "The enemy knows what they would do in your situation. Do something different. Make them react to you instead of executing their plan." Ji Woo worked with alien engineers to retrofit their ships with human technology. "Your shields are stronger than ours, but you use them passively. Watch what happens when we make them active." She demonstrated a technique that turned defensive shields into offensive weapons. And the alien engineer's eyes widened with understanding. Sun He, freed from captivity, coordinated medical efforts across multiple species. Her research on alien biology, gathered during her years in the colony, proved invaluable. We are all different, but pain is universal. Fear is universal. So is courage. Remember that, when you treat wounded soldiers. Ye Sung found himself leading mixed-species fighter squadrons. He taught pilots from 6 different worlds how to think like humans in combat. Do not ask what the safe option is. Ask what the enemy least expects. Then, do that. The turning point came at the Battle of 3 Moons, a strategic system that controlled access to 5 different sectors. Thol committed his remaining forces to capturing it, believing that success there would break the alliance and force humans to surrender. He brought 800 warships, the largest fleet the Vrex had ever assembled. Admiral Boram met him with 400 ships, half human, half alliance. On paper, the Vrex should have won easily. But Boram had learned something during humanity's 3 centuries of isolation. The greatest strength was not in ships or weapons, but in bringing diverse peoples together and making them stronger as a whole. The battle lasted 2 days. Alliance forces fought with a coordination that surprised even themselves. Human tactical doctrine, combined with the unique capabilities of dozens of species, created a fighting force that was greater than the sum of its parts. Ships that were designed for different purposes learned to work together. Species that had historic tensions found common cause. Jae Sung performed the action that would be remembered forever. Commander Thol's flagship was heavily shielded and surrounded by elite guards. No conventional attack could reach it. So Jae Sung did something unconventional. He loaded his fighter with every explosive he could carry, disabled his own weapons to make room for more speed, and headed straight for the flagship. Jae Sung, what are you doing? Boram's voice came over the comm. What humans do best, Admiral. Something crazy that just might work. He flew through a storm of defensive fire, his fighter taking hits that should have destroyed it. But humans had built these ships tough, with redundant systems and armor that could withstand punishment. He reached the flagship's command tower and ejected at the last possible second, his fighter impacting with devastating force. The explosion crippled Thol's command and control. Without their leader's coordination, Vrex forces faltered. And in that moment of confusion, the Alliance struck with everything they had. Jae Sung was recovered by a rescue team, injured but alive. Did it work? He asked, as they pulled him from his escape pod. It worked, the rescuer confirmed. You are either the bravest pilot alive, or the craziest. Can't it be both? Commander Thol was captured when his damaged flagship was boarded by joint Human Alliance forces. Kyung-soo personally took him into custody. You wanted to study humans, Kyung-soo said coldly. You wanted to understand what makes us special. Here is the lesson: we protect our own. We never give up. And we make friends even with former enemies. That is what you could never understand. The Battle of 3 Moons broke the Vrex offensive. Their empire, overextended and exhausted, sued for peace. The treaty terms were harsh but fair reparations for the attacked colonies, strict limits on military expansion, and recognition of human sovereignty. Young Ho, who had survived capture and fought in multiple battles afterward, found himself standing at a memorial for those who did not survive. Hundreds of names, human and alien, carved into stone. We always do, Dong-hyun replied, standing beside him. But at least this time, we fought for something that mattered. For the right to exist. For the right to be free. 6 months after the war ended, the Galactic Council chamber was transformed. A new seat had been added, equal in status to the founding members. Min Seo sat in that seat as humanity's first official ambassador to the galactic community. Honored members, she began. Humanity returns to you not as legends or myths, but as partners. We bring our capabilities, our creativity, and our commitment to building something better than what existed before. We have seen what happens when species use each other. We have experienced what happens when the strong prey upon the weak, and we say, no more. The human fleet remained on alert, but they also began a new mission. Ji Woo led teams that shared human technology with species that had fought beside them, defensive shields, medical techniques, agricultural improvements. We hid our knowledge for 3 centuries, she told a conference of alien scientists. Now we share it freely with those who earn our trust. Tae-min and Hee-jin became official liaisons between humanity and the Council. Their office was always busy with species wanting to establish formal relations. You started all this, Hee-jin reminded him one day. 5 years of research that nobody believed in. I knew they were out there, Tae-min said, looking at a photo of Donghyun's colony. I just did not know how incredible they would be. Sun-hee opened a medical research center that welcomed scientists from across the galaxy. Her work on cross-species biology saved countless lives and earned her recognition as one of the foremost researchers in the field. When asked about her time in Vrek's captivity, she simply said, "They tried to use my knowledge as a weapon. Instead, I use it to heal. That is the difference between us and them." Jae-sung recovered from his injuries and became an instructor at the new Alliance Flight Academy. Pilots from dozens of species learned human tactics. But more importantly, they learned human philosophy. Take risks, but take them for the right reasons, he told his students. Fight hard, but know what you are fighting for. And never, ever, leave someone behind. Admiral Bo-Ram reduced the fleet to peacetime status but remained vigilant. The galaxy is safer now, she told her officers. But safety requires constant attention. We will not hide again. We will be present, active, and ready to defend what we have built. On Earth itself, revealed to the galaxy for the first time in 3 centuries, celebrations continued for weeks. The blue planet that spawned humanity was no longer a myth or a lost world. It was home, and it was protected by the children who had scattered to the stars and returned stronger. In the council chamber, Min Seo concluded her first formal address as ambassador. My people have a saying: we judge ourselves not by how we treat the powerful, but by how we protect the vulnerable. For 300 years, we removed ourselves because we saw a galaxy that failed that test. Now we return, hoping to help build one that passes it. We are human. We are real. And we are here to stay. The applause that followed came from dozens of species, creating a symphony of sounds that had never existed before. It was the sound of a galaxy changing, adapting, and growing. Somewhere in deep space, in one of the hidden colonies that had preserved humanity through the long silence, children played in parks, built in the shadow of defensive installations. They were the first generation to grow up knowing that humans were no longer legends hiding in the dark. They were real. They were free. And they were finally, truly, home in a galaxy that had learned to accept them as equals. The story of how humanity vanished and returned would be told for generations. But the real story was simpler. They had never been gone. They had just been waiting for the right moment to show the universe what they truly were. Not weapons, not tools, not legends, just people. Incredible, stubborn, creative, loyal people who refused to give up on the dream of living free. And that, more than any military victory or diplomatic achievement, was the greatest human quality of all.